The dark web auction flickered on Julian's laptop screen. A grainy live stream of a hooded figure holding up two ancient scrolls, their parchment wrapped around blackened finger bones. The chat exploded with bids. 1.2 million, 1.5 million, each number a flex from faceless users with too much money and too little sense. Julian leaned back in his penthouse loft, a smirk curling his lips as he typed in $2 million. The Obsidian Circle wasn't here to lose. Easy money, he said, popping a grape into his mouth. We'll flip these for triple on the next stream. Imagine the views. Leela, sprawled on a velvet couch with a glass of champagne, rolled her eyes but didn't disagree. As long as we don't actually use them. They look creepy as hell. Her voice had an edge, but her smirk matched Julian's. She'd been with him through enough dark web stunts to know the thrill outweighed the risk. Ethan, hunched over his own laptop, scoffed. Don't be a buzzkill, Leela. We're the Obsidian Circle. We don't just buy, we play. He adjusted his Rolex, the glint catching the loft's dim light. These scrolls are our ticket to legend status. Seer of omens, harbinger of silence. Sounds like a party. Marcus, counting a stack of cash he'd brought for no reason other than to flash it, chuckled. Party? More like profit. We use one, film it, then sell the other. I've got buyers lined up already. His eyes gleamed with greed, the kind that made you want to check your wallet. Sophie, the quiet one, sat in the corner, scrolling through the auction's description on her phone. It says they're from the Library of Alexandria. Something about a cult and a curse. Her voice trembled slightly, but no one paid her any mind. She'd been dragged into the circle by Leela, more of a tag-along than a true member, but she never said no. Curse schmerse, Julian said, slamming his laptop shut as the auction ended. We won. $2 million for a couple of old rags and some bones. We're untouchable. The scrolls arrived 2 days later, delivered in a black metal box to a rented warehouse on the edge of town. The Circle set up their live stream, lights rigged to cast dramatic shadows. A pentagram spray-painted on the concrete floor for flair. Julian wore a tailored black suit, playing the part of a ritual master for the camera. Leela adjusted the angles, ensuring her leather jacket looked just right. Ethan cracked open a bottle of whiskey, passing it around, while Marcus counted the live viewer count, already at 10,000 and climbing. Sophie fidgeted with her phone, muttering about bad vibes, but she didn't leave. Welcome to the Obsidian Circle's darkest ritual yet, Julian announced to the camera, his voice booming with fake gravitas. Tonight, we unlock the secrets of the Seer of Omens. Who's ready to see some real magic? The chat exploded with skull emojis and do it spam. Ethan raised the whiskey bottle in a toast. To epic nights and epic fights, he shouted, sloshing liquid on the floor. Marcus laughed, already calculating the ad revenue, while Leela gave a mock salute. Sophie whispered, "This feels wrong," but her words drowned in the noise. Julian unwrapped the Seer of Omens scroll, the parchment crackling like dry leaves. The finger bone at its center rattled faintly, a sound that made Sophie flinch. He placed it in the center of the pentagram, drew a pocket knife, and pricked his finger, letting a drop of blood fall onto the bone. The air grew heavy. the warehouse lights flickering as he read the chant written on the scroll. His voice steadied despite the sudden chill. "Seer of omens, speak your truth," he said, grinning at the camera. "Where's the lost treasure of Alexandria?" The bone hummed, a low, guttural sound that vibrated through the concrete. The live stream views hit 15,000. The chat, a frenzy of excitement. For a moment, the circle felt invincible, riding the high of their own audacity. Julian's voice echoed in the warehouse, his question hanging in the air like a taunt. "Where's the lost treasure of Alexandria?" He winked at the camera, basking in the chat's frenzy. The view count ticking up to 15,000. The obsidian circle stood around the spray-painted pentagram, the finger bone at its center still dripping with Julian's blood. Ethan took a swig of whiskey, wiping his mouth with the back of his hand, while Marcus muttered about sponsorship deals under his breath. Leela adjusted the camera, her leather jacket creaking, and Sophie clutched her phone, her knuckles white. A sound cut through the warehouse. A low, rasping chorus, like a dozen voices speaking at once, their words scraping against each other.
"Beneath the sands, where the first flame fell."
The bone vibrated on the concrete, the air growing thick with stench like rotting flowers. Julian's smirk faltered, but he recovered quickly, turning to the camera. "Hear that, folks? We're treasure hunters now," he said, forcing a laugh. Ethan whooped, raising the whiskey bottle, but the sound died in his throat as a new noise emerged. A wet, slithering rasp, like vines dragging across stone. Julian's body jerked. His hands flew to his throat, fingers clawing at his skin as if something invisible was tightening around his neck. "What the?" he gasped, his voice cut off by a choking gurgle. His eyes bulged, bloodshot veins spidering across the whites, and he stumbled backward, crashing into the camera tripod. The live stream tilted, capturing his thrashing body at an angle as he fell to his knees. "Julian!" Leela screamed, rushing forward, but she froze when she saw his neck. Red welts forming in twisted patterns, like vines had wrapped around his throat. She grabbed his shoulders, shaking him. "Stop messing around! This isn't funny!" "He's not messing around, you idiot!" Sophie shrieked, dropping her phone and backing against the wall. "I told you this was wrong! I told you!" Ethan stood frozen, the whiskey bottle slipping from his hand and shattering on the concrete. "What the hell is happening?" he yelled, his voice cracking. Marcus, still clutching a stack of cash, took a step back, his face pale. "This isn't part of the plan," he muttered, more to himself than anyone else. Julian's choking turned to a wet, ragged wheeze. His nails dug into his throat, drawing blood that trickled down his neck, staining his black suit. His body convulsed, legs kicking out, and then he went still, his hands falling limp at his sides. His eyes stared blankly at the ceiling, his mouth frozen in a silent scream. The welts on his neck pulsed once, then faded, leaving his skin mottled and gray. The warehouse was silent except for the hum of the live stream, the viewer count now at 20,000. The chat was a wall of caps-locked panic. What just happened? Is he dead? This is fake, right? Leela sank to her knees beside Julian's body, her hands trembling as she touched his face. He's not breathing, she whispered, her voice hollow. Ethan rounded on Sophie, grabbing her by the arm. You knew this would happen, didn't you? You and your bad vibes. Why didn't you stop him? His grip tightened and Sophie yelped, trying to pull away. I didn't know, she sobbed, tears streaming down her face. I just felt it. You never listen to me. None of you do. Shut up, both of you, Marcus snapped, shoving his cash into his pocket. He pointed at the bone on the floor, still wrapped in the Seer of Omens scroll. We need to get out of here, now. Leave that thing. We'll come back for it later. A sudden chill swept through the warehouse, the air growing heavy with the sound of rattling bones. From the shadows near the entrance, a figure emerged, gaunt and wraith-like, its hollow eyes glowing faintly in the darkness. Its tattered cloak trailed behind it like smoke, and its skeletal hand reached out, pointing toward the scroll. None of the circle knew what it was, but the sight of it sent a primal fear through them. What the hell is that? Leela stammered, scrambling to her feet, her hands still smeared with Julian's blood. Move! Marcus shouted, already sprinting for the exit. Sophie followed, her sobs echoing as she stumbled over the broken whiskey bottle. Ethan hesitated, his eyes darting to the second scroll, the harbinger of silence, still lying on the floor. He lunged for it, snatching it up as a wraith-like figure glided forward, its bony fingers closing around the Seer of Omens scroll. As Ethan turned to run, the figure lifted its head, its hollow gaze locking onto him. It raised a skeletal hand, pointing directly at him. Its gesture, a silent promise. Ethan's blood ran cold, but he didn't stop, clutching the scroll as he bolted after the others. They piled into Marcus's black SUV, parked just outside the warehouse. Marcus floored the gas, the tires screeching as they peeled out into the night. We're going to my lake house, he said, his voice tight. It's 3 hours from here, farthest place we've got. No one argued, their breaths ragged as they sped away. The image of the wraith-like figure burned into their minds. The lake house sat on the edge of a dark, glassy lake, its wooden walls creaking under a late-night wind. The obsidian circle huddled in the living room, the glow of the flat-screen TV casting harsh shadows across their faces. The harbinger of silence scroll lay on the coffee table, its finger bones still wrapped in the parchment, a silent threat they couldn't ignore. Marcus paced near the window, his hands shoved into his pockets, while Leela sat on the couch, her leather jacket discarded, her arms wrapped around herself. Sophie rocked back and forth in the armchair, her eyes red from crying, and Ethan stood by the TV, his jaw clenched, the pocket knife from the warehouse ritual still in his hand. The news anchor voice cut through the silence, his tone clipped and professional. Breaking news. Julian Caldwell, son of oil tycoon Richard Caldwell, was found dead in a warehouse on the city's outskirts. Authorities report he was strangled, though no suspects have been identified. A live stream of the incident has gone viral, raising questions about the circumstances of his death. Leela's head snapped up, her face pale. They're calling it a murder. They think someone killed him. Her voice trembled, but there was an edge of accusation in it as she glared at Ethan. This is your fault! You pushed him to do the ritual. You always push him. Ethan spun around, his eyes blazing. My fault? You were right there, Leela, adjusting the camera like a good little director. Don't act like you're innocent. He slammed the pocket knife onto the coffee table, the blade clattering against the wood. We all wanted this. We all wanted the clout. I didn't! Sophie screamed, her voice raw as she stood up, her chair scraping against the floor. I told you it was wrong! I told you we shouldn't touch those scrolls! Now Julian's dead, and that thing saw us! Her breath coming in short, panicked gasps. It pointed at Ethan! It's coming for us! Shut up, Sophie! Marcus snapped, whirling around from the window. You're not helping! We need to think! We need a plan! He ran a hand through his hair, his usual swagger replaced by a jittery edge. We've got money. We can get out of the country. My dad's got a jet. He won't ask questions if I throw enough cash at him. And what, Marcus? Leela shot back, standing up, her hands balled into fists. Run to some island and pretend this didn't happen? They've got Julian's body. They've got the live stream. Our faces are all over it. She laughed, a bitter, broken sound. We're screwed. And you're talking about a vacation? Ethan grabbed the scroll, unrolling it with a furious jerk. We're not running. We fix this. We use the scroll right now in the yard. We ask how to get out of this mess. His voice cracked, but his eyes were wild, a manic glint in them. The first one answered Julian's question, didn't it? This one will answer mine. Are you out of your mind? Leela lunged forward, trying to snatch the scroll from him, but Ethan shoved her back, hard. She stumbled, catching herself on the couch, her eyes wide with shock. Ethan, stop! Julian died because of that thing! You saw what it did to him! I don't care! Ethan roared, his face contorted with rage and fear. I'm not going to jail for this! I'm not dying because of some creepy-ass scroll! We finished what we started! He clutched the scroll to his chest, his knuckles white, his breathing ragged. You're either with me, or you're against me! Sophie sank to the floor, her sobs turning into a keening wail. We're all gonna die, she moaned, rocking back and forth, her nails digging into her arms until red lines appeared. It's coming for us. That thing. It's coming for us. I can feel it. I can hear it. The bones. They're rattling in my head. Marcus grabbed his phone, his hands trembling as he scrolled through his contacts. I'm calling my guy in Miami. He can get us the passports by morning. We leave tonight, jet to Mexico, then somewhere else. I don't care where. His voice was a fever pitch, desperate, his greed replaced by raw survival instinct. You can stay and play with your death scroll, Ethan, but I'm out. No one's leaving! Ethan shouted, kicking the coffee table over, the scroll's bone rolling across the floor. He picked it up, his hands shaking as he turned toward the glass door leading to the yard. We do this together, or I swear I'll drag you all out there myself! Leela's face twisted, tears streaming down her cheeks as she screamed at him. You're a monster, Ethan! Julian's dead because of you! And you don't even care! You just want to save your own skin! She lunged at him again, but this time Marcus grabbed her, holding her back as she thrashed in his arms. Let me go! Leela sobbed, her voice breaking. He's going to kill us all! That sadistic son of a bitch! Ethan ignored them, storming outside into the yard, the scroll and bone in his hands. The night was moonless, the lake a black mirror reflecting nothing. He dropped to his knees in the grass, his hands shaking as he placed the bone in front of him. Sophie's wails echoed from inside. Marcus's shouting overlapping with Leela's screams, but Ethan didn't care. He pricked his finger with the pocket knife, letting his blood drip onto the bone, and began to read the chant, his voice low and unsteady. "Harbinger of silence, answer me," he said, his words barely audible over the wind. "How do I get out of this?" Ethan knelt in the grass outside Marcus's lake house. The Harbinger of Silence scroll unrolled before him, the finger bones slick with his blood. The night pressed down, the lake a black void beyond the yard. His voice trembled as he finished the chant. "Harbinger of Silence, answer me. How do we get out of this?" The bone hummed, a low, guttural sound that vibrated through the ground. A chorus of rasping voices answered, each word dripping with malice.
"The living cannot escape the silence."
The air turned frigid, the wind dying as an unnatural stillness settled over the lake house. Ethan's breath caught, his eyes darting around, expecting answers, not this cryptid reply. Before he could stand, his body seized. A scream tore from his throat as his skin split open in long, jagged gashes, arms, chest, face, blood spraying across the grass. Invisible claws raked through him, the shade of the Harbinger of Silence possessing him, forcing him to relive its death. His hands flailed, trying to fight the unseen force, but the gashes deepened, muscles tearing, his screams turning to wet gurgles as blood filled his mouth. He collapsed, his body a shredded mess, the scroll stained crimson beside him. Leela burst through the glass door, her scream echoing across the yard. "Ethan!" She stumbled to a stop, her hands flying to her mouth as she saw his mangled corpse. His eyes staring blankly at the sky, his face unrecognizable. Marcus followed. His phone slipped from his hand, his face ashen. "What did you do?" he whispered, his voice barely a breath. Sophie, still inside, screamed from the living room, her voice a keening wail. "It's happening again! It's happening again!" She scrambled to her feet, running for the door, but her legs gave out, and she collapsed near the threshold, sobbing uncontrollably, her nails digging into the wooden floor. Leela turned on Marcus, her face contorted with rage and grief. "This is your fault! You wanted to run, but you didn't stop him! You let him do it!" She shoved him hard, her hands slick with sweat and tears. Marcus stumbled backward, his heel catching on the edge of the yard, where the grass sloped down to the lake. "Don't touch me!" Marcus shouted, his voice cracking as he shoved her back. But his foot slipped on the dew-slick grass, and he lost his balance, tumbling down the slope toward the lake. He clawed at the ground, trying to stop his fall, but the momentum carried him into the water with a splash. The lake swallowed him, its surface rippling black under the starless sky. Leela froze, her breath hitching as she stared at the water. For a moment, there was a silence. Then Marcus broke the surface, gasping, his arms thrashing. "Help me!" he screamed, his voice panicking and desperate. But the water churned violently around him, as if something unseen had grabbed hold. His screams turned to gurgles as he was dragged under, the lake's surface bubbling with his last frantic breaths. The ripples spread, then slowed, the water stilling as if Marcus had never been there. The lake's surface rippled again, unnaturally, the water parting as a gaunt, wraith-like figure emerged. The Archive Reaper. Its hollow eyes glowed faintly, its tattered cloak trailing behind it like smoke, dripping with black lake water. It glided onto the shore, skeletal fingers reaching for the harbinger of silent scroll on the grass. The blood-soaked parchment crackling in its grip. Leela looked up, her scream dying in her throat as she met its gaze. The horror of its emergence from Marcus's watery grave freezing her in place. She scrambled backward, her hands slipping in Ethan's blood, and bolted toward the lake house, slamming the glass door behind her. Inside, Sophie was still on the floor, her sobs reduced to whimpers, her body curled into a ball. Leela grabbed her arm, yanking her up. "We have to go!" she screamed, her voice hoarse, but Sophie was limp, her eyes vacant, her mind shattered by the horrors she'd witnessed. "Sophie, move!" The Archive Reaper turned, its gaze locked onto Sophie. It glided forward. The glass door shattered inward as it entered the house, shards scattering across the floor. Leela let go of Sophie, her survival instinct kicking in, and ran for the door, disappearing into the night. The Archive Reaper ignored her, its skeletal hand reaching for Sophie, who didn't resist, her whimpers fading as it wrapped its tattered cloak around her. A void of shadows opened in the air, a portal of writhing darkness that pulsed with the scent of ancient dust and decay. The Archive Reaper stepped through, dragging Sophie with it, her body limp in its grasp. The portal closed with a sound like a dying breath, leaving the lake house silent. The bodies of Ethan and Marcus, the only evidence of the night's carnage. In the forgotten library, Sophie was dropped onto the cold stone floor of a cavernous chamber, the air thick with the weight of forgotten knowledge. Her eyes fluttered, her breath shallow, her mind a fractured mess of terror and grief. Amelia Blackwood, the janitor of shadows, loomed over her cloak form absorbing the faint light. "Another fool," she said, her voice like grinding stone, as she turned to seal the scroll in the obsidian vault. The forgotten library's air was thick with the weight of centuries, its cavernous chambers lit by flickering torches that cast jagged shadows across the stone floor. Sophie lay crumpled where the Archive Reaper had dropped her breath shallowed, her body trembling. Her eyes, wide with terror, darted around the chamber, taking in the towering shelves groaning under the weight of ancient tomes, their spines etched with runes that pulsed faintly in the dim light. The scent of dust and decay clung to everything, a reminder of the library's unyielding grip on the past. The Archive Reaper had already delivered the Harbinger of Silence scroll, its parchment still stained with Ethan's blood. Amelia had secured it in the obsidian vault alongside the Seer of Omens and Scribe of Shadows scrolls, the blood-locked ceiling with a hiss that echoed through the chambers. She ascended back up the whispering staircase where she left Sophie. Now, she turned her attention to the broken girl at her feet, her cloaked form absorbing the torchlight, her face hidden in shadow. "Another fool who dared to touch what belongs to the library," Sophie whimpered, her voice a whisper.
Please, let me go. I didn't mean to.
Her hands clawed weakly at the stone, her nails bloody from scratching the floor in her panic. Her mind was a fractured mess, replaying Julian's choking, Ethan's shredding, Marcus's drowning. The horrors she'd witnessed had shattered her, leaving nothing but raw fear. Amelia ignored her pleas, gliding to a nearby shelf and retrieving a heavy, leather-bound book, its cover embossed with a skeletal hooded face and scales of justice in gold leaf. The Tome of Judgment. She opened it, the pages crackling like dry bones, and began to read in a language older than time. Her words a low, resonant chant that made the air tremble. The torches dimmed, their flames shrinking to mere embers, as a thick, gray fog seeped from the book, curling towards Sophie like a living thing. Sophie screamed, a weak, broken sound, as a fog enveloped her. It moved with purpose, wrapping around her body, its tendrils cold and slick against her skin.
No! No! Please!
She sobbed, trying to crawl away, but the fog tightened, lifting her off the ground. Her limbs froze mid-motion, her face contorted in a mask of chilling fear. Eyes wide, mouth open in a silent scream, tears glistening on her cheeks. The fog thickened, then dissipated, leaving nothing behind where Sophie had been. In a side hallway of the Forgotten Library, known as the Hall of Agony, a new painting appeared on the stone wall. The corridor was lined with other cursed relics, paintings of twisted faces, statues with hollow eyes, artifacts that whispered faintly in the dark. Sophie's painting stood out, her frozen expression a stark contrast to the faded portraits around her. She was alive within the canvas, her consciousness trapped, aware of every second of her eternal torment. Her eyes, though painted, seemed to shimmer with unshed tears. And if you listen closely, you could hear the faintest echo of her scream, swallowed by the library's endless silence. Amelia closed the Tome of Judgment, placing it back on the shelf with a reverence that bordered on ritual. She glided down to the obsidian vault, her cloak trailing behind her, and ran a hand over the bloodlock, ensuring the scrolls were secure. A faint tremor ran through the library, the air growing heavier, as if something ancient was stirring. The death god the occult stewards had tried to contact centuries ago, the entity tied to the scrolls of the Bone Whisperers, was waking, its presence a distant rumble in the library's depths. Amelia turned, her shadowed gaze sweeping the chamber. "The library keeps its own," she said, her voice a cold promise. She moved toward the Hall of Agony, her steps silent, and paused before Sophie's painting. The girl's frozen terror stared back, a testament to the library's unforgiving nature. Amelia tilted her head, as if considering her work, then turned away, disappearing into the shadows of the library's endless corridors. Beware the thrill of forbidden things, for what you seek in darkness will seek you back. Greed blinds, arrogance binds, and the shadows you chase will come to collect more than you're willing to offer. Hey everyone, once again, thank you so much for listening. Emotions ran high in this story, and my voice felt it. I almost lost my voice doing some of those extreme moments. The one thing that I want to share as a narrator is that not all narrators go to like extremes with their voiceover work, especially with character voices. Some of them will change the tone of the character, and they won't put like full volume into like extreme moments. They'll just change the octave or change the volume of it just a little bit. Me, I go all in. All my cards are on the table, and I go for broke because that's just how my personality is. That's how I like to do things. And I hope that translates to something that is enjoyable for you. Now, working with the AI to craft this story was this one I really enjoyed because I kept on pushing for it to be darker and darker and darker. And working on the final draft, I really had to move things around and create that something that is worthy of the Forgotten Library. I want that darkness that builds the atmosphere around what essentially is the Forgotten Library. And this one truly captures that. So I'm very proud of the outcome here. Oh, and during my afterthoughts for the last few videos, I forgot to always mention, please like, comment, and subscribe. That is the lifeblood of all of us creative people's channels. So it's one of those things where a little definitely goes a long ways. Okay, now it's plug time. I'm on YouTube as well as Rumble. And yes, I even have an Instagram account. So if you want to contact me about stories, if you want to collaborate, if you're a fellow narrator, or if you just want to get to know what's going on inside this crazy little mind of mine, I always welcome all comments and conversations. And remember, it's okay to be scared sometimes. I am too. Embrace the strange, embrace creativity, embrace literature, and I will see you in the next story.